We're going to talk about politicians. I think they're a lot like kids. We tell our kids, don't touch that. And if you tell your kid that, they can't keep their hands off it. But while our children may want to touch candy or a hot stove, our politicians only want to touch one thing, and that is your wallet. We should all know by now that Al Gore was promoting two myths. The second one was about that lockbox in Washington. Yeah. That's impossible. There are no lock boxes. Earmark money for education? Oh, please. That's pulled out for road work. Set money aside for Social Security? That's used for defense. In California, even the lottery isn't safe anymore. Governor Schwarzenegger now wants to borrow $15 billion from the lottery to help balance their disaster of a budget. Borrowing from the lottery, isn't that kind of like borrowing from the mob? All the spending has had an obvious consequence, and that is we're broke. Although nobody really wants to admit it, we could print more money. The real story is somebody has got to pay for all the reckless spending we've been doing in this country, all the broken promises and empty lockboxes that we have accumulated over the years. And unfortunately, you know who's going to pay for it? You and me. One of the big problems facing America that nobody really wants to talk about is who's going to finance the retirements of our parents and grandparents? They're all retiring now. It's not going to be them. Only half of Americans have actually saved more than $31,000 for their retirement. I mean, how long are you going to live on that? It's not going to be corporate pensions. 20% of workers now have them, and most companies have never even fully funded them. It's not going to be government pensions, because most are broke because our politicians just couldn't keep their hands out of the cookie jar. And it's certainly not going to be Social Security or Medicare. That's a joke. These two programs are on track to eat up almost the entire federal budget in the decades ahead. So like I said, it's going to be you and me, and probably our kids, and our grandkids, and maybe our great-great-grandkids as well. You know, a lot of people will tell you, oh, we can solve these problems. We just got to start taxing the wealthiest 1%. That's a lie. This is not a tax problem. It never was. It is a spending problem. It is a problem of greed. So now, how do we get back to sanity? Roger Lowenstein says he has an answer. He's the author of While America Aged. Roger, let's start with GM. How did the whole GM thing happen?
Glenn, GM started giving out pensions in the late 40s. In 1950, the Treaty of Detroit with the other manufacturers. And the system worked for a couple of decades because when you went to the car dealer, the showroom, and they showed you the car with the nice tail fins, you got a pension along with it. All the manufacturers had the same pensions. They priced them into the car. But when imports started coming in, you had a choice. You could get the Chevy with the pensions, or you could get the Toyota without it. And basically, from that day on, the American level of benefits became uncompetitive.
Okay, so we've got this system failing all across America in every realm.
Well, we got on the private side, a lot of companies failed, and a lot of others just said, we really don't want to be the GM of the future,
Sure.
So we're going to terminate or freeze. And that system, as you said, is winding down. Fewer than 1 out of 5 private sector people have a pension.
Okay, and the states are having the same problem. So what is the solution here?
The states have radically underfunded. They're hundreds of billions of dollars with health care liabilities thrown in, $1 trillion in the red, according to the GAO. And you said there are two solutions, and I disagree with you. It could be a tax solution, or it could be a lower benefit solution. But we sort of had a schizophrenic approach in this country to retirement and social benefits, which is, we want the benefits, but we don't want to pay for them. And it's got to be one or the other. It can't be we'll take the benefits and we won't tax and we won't pay for them.
But you want to take all of these pensions and jam it over to the federal government, which, I mean, everybody says. See, the problem with GM, as I understand it, Roger, is it was arrogance. GM will always be GM. GM's never going to go out of business. It's never going to have problems. It's never going to fall on tough times.
It was arrogance. It was fear because the unions were going to strike, and it was always easier. Right. And it was always easier today to pass the pensions through to tomorrow.
You tell me, though, Roger, how that's not different from the United States right now. Instead of fear of the unions, it's fear of the electorate. People are voting for politicians who will say, "Oh, I'll give this," and we'll just pass it on to the next generation.
If the legislatures, what I'm for is a legislature, when it approves a pension, every dollar that's approved should be funded right then. Then you'd have legislatures making honest choices. Maybe some of them would say, hey, the voters want to pay the taxes and want to pay
Sure.
so public employees can retire at age 50. If that's not popular, they wouldn't. I'm just saying let's have an honest choice, fund what we approve. If we don't fund it, then don't approve it.
Roger? I think we ended at a nice place because you and I agree completely on that. Thank you so much, sir.